best machine that is around anywhere in the world.
The professional machine of the future.
How would I describe it?
I think it's fantastic.
Awesome.
It's going to skyrocket.
Only Amiga makes it possible.
Only Amiga makes it possible. Only Amiga makes it happen. Only Amiga makes it possible. Only Amiga makes it happen.
Amiga's got the guts to do things that you can't do on other hardware.
And it does all the work for you. Wow.
State-of-the-art technology at a price that everybody can afford.
The Amiga is the best graphics machine available in the world today.
Okay, thanks for checking out my first main video for my new channel. This is Commodore Rediscovered. So today I'm going to be showing you Amiga Forever. So Amiga Forever is a very awesome and really amazing front-end system pretty much, which is going to power Amiga games from, say, the Amiga 1000 era right up to Amiga CD32 and beyond. It's really amazing piece of software, and I've covered this over on my other channel, Just Jamie, but I thought let's actually show you dedicated Commodore fans, where people's going to take more notice of this. So I'm going to take you over to the website, and this is where you can purchase Amiga Forever. So we got 3 editions of this: Value Edition, Plus Edition, and Premium Edition. So each edition features different features, and the Premium Edition actually comes with a case and a CD. So yes, €60 is quite a lot of money, but considering what we actually get from Amiga Forever 10, such as a full set of legal Kickstart ROMs, which we can then transfer onto other emulators outside of Amiga Forever, such as Winuae, FSUA, and Winfellow, it's a bargain as far as I'm concerned, and it's literally got all those files you need. And as we know, Commodore Amiga emulation can be a little bit troublesome sometimes finding certain files. So absolutely must for Amiga fans, and we can even transfer some of these files onto real Amiga hardware. So what I'm going to do is actually open up Amiga Forever and actually show you what this thing looks like. So this is Amiga Forever Plus Edition, and if I just go to Systems over here, we can actually boot up a different workbench using a different Amiga model. So for example, if I just double left click on Amiga 1000, it's going to take us into Workbench, and it's over 500, 2000, 3000, and so on, and even up to more recent Workbench systems, such as this one just here. If I double left click on Workbench 3.x, I'm also going to make note here that if you hold escape button, we can actually exit out so you get your cursor back. But if I go into full screen modes for this, so we can see we're now in Workbench 3.x, and we can just use this like it was on, say, a real Amiga. So if I right click, I can drop down at the top just here, we can reset Workbench, and we can go into System folder, and you'll have all your drawers inside here, just like, well, a real Amiga Workbench system. And we can even go down to screen mode, and we can change the display settings. So if I go to, say, 1080p 32-bit and go to use, we are now in 1080p using Workbench 3.x. So through this system, we can even link up something like WHD loads, and we can actually use this as a WHD load system, just like we would set up on something like Winuae manually or FSUAE. So we can also go to Work, and we go into software, and in here you're going to find a host of different software packages such as Paint, and we've even got Picasso in here, so lots to explore just there. But like I say, to make this better, we can actually add things like WHD loads into this system. So to exit out, again, what I'm going to do is hold my finger on escape, seconds, and that's going to bring this up. Now from here, we can go back into Windows mode just by left clicking. And there we go, we can close this down from. Now every time you close out of something using Amiga Forever, normally this comes up. What we can actually do here in most cases is actually save a snapshot. So when booting the system back up again, it will offer us to load the snapshot so we can go back to where we last left it from. If I go up to say the Amiga 500, so I've opened this before, and when I close it down, it's actually saved. So we can actually choose from here to reload where I closed it down from. So if I just go to play, and here we go. So it's just loaded back that snapshot. So I'm now back to where I left this. And obviously go into full screen. And here we go. And last time I was using this, I was obviously using Shell. So not sure what that's about. But we can also go to say workbench. And as you can see here, we got utilities drawer, system drawer, and press drawer. And as you can hear by that, it's actually emulating the sound of a floppy disk drive. So if we go into preferences, and once we press escape again, we've actually got save snapshot. If I left click on this, we can actually then save before we close down. So for example, if I give this the description, let's just put Commodore, and we can actually choose to replace the last snapshot of this. If I check this and go to OK, and then close out. Well, obviously when you close this down again, we don't want to save snapshot because we've already saved it. What I'm going to do next then is double left click on this workbench again, and as we can see, we got Commodore, which I've just typed as description. So if I go to play, there we go, we're back into where I just saved a snapshot from. Now, for whatever reason you want to watch CD32 boot up, now, for those of you who want to take a look at AROS, which is almost like a modern equivalent of Workbench might be like today, we've also got that here as well. And here we go, so we're in AROS, and just like Workbench, this is very similar. So we got preps, and we can play around with appearance. Now, the thing most of you is going to want to know about is games. Now, if we go to the games folder just here, all of these games just here, minus Rick Dangerous Remake, actually comes with Amiga Forever. And you'll notice that a lot of these are homebrew, but there's also games which you'll be very familiar with, such as Over the Net just here by Ocean Software. We've also got Satan, which is a 1990 game. And we got Soccer Kid, which is a really underrated game, I think. Pretty hard though. So what I'm going to do next is obviously show you how to add your own Amiga game. So on my desktop, I've got an Amiga game in ADF file extension. So obviously ADF is the most popular type of file extension or format of digital Amiga games. So in order to use our ADF files with Amiga Forever, we actually got to use a built-in system with Amiga Forever known as RP9. So yes, on my desktop, I've got Rainbow Islands in ADF file extension. If I want to use this inside Amiga Forever, I just go to Tools, RP9 Toolbox, and from here we can then convert to RP9. So all we need to do this is just go to Folders and Source, and we need to point it into the location of where the ADF game is. I've already done this, but if I go to Start Task, it then converts it to RP9. As we can see, Process 1, convert it to RP9-1, and close. And if I just scroll down, I should then find Rainbow Islands, which is just here. Now you're going to notice when you add your ADF games, there's no image to go with it. So what you need to do in this case is simply download, say, a .png image from, say, Google Images, and you can actually manually add the artwork. So to do this, just right click on it. If we go down to Edit, at the top of this window, we're going to find Extras, and under Extras, we can go down to Add Image, and under Type in File, if we go just down to File, I'm then going to point it to where I've downloaded my .png image, which is just here, Rainbow Islands.png. And here we go, this is the image I've downloaded from Google Images. And if I go to OK, and OK again, as we can see, my game has now got that artwork which I've downloaded. But we can also do other things through edit. So right click on the game, edit. And from here you can find other settings. So for example, if I go to details, under release, we go to type. If Amiga Forever has got this wrong, we can then say, for example, select application. But obviously this is a game. Now under genre, it's come up as unknown. But as we know, Rainbow Islands is a platformer, which I'm going to select platform. Now under release, this is come up as unknown. If we drop this down, obviously this is a commercial game. So if we want to edit this and actually put the correct details in, commercial it is. And we also got the options here on the sides to add trainer. So for example, this particular game is actually got a trainer. So if I left click on that, and we've even got content rating just here. So I'm not going to read these out because I don't want my channel shut down, but you can read these yourself. But I'm going to leave all of this as it is. And if we go up to configuration, we can even change how Amiga Forever boots our games. So obviously Rainbow Islands would have been for the Amiga 500. This is actually selected as the 1200 model. So we can change it from here if you want. We can even change the ROM, which is going to be booting from. So as standard, this is going to be booting from 1.2 ROM. And if you know much about Amigas, we can even change the CPU. Just make sure you know what you're doing, because if you get the wrong configurations, then your games aren't going to boot. And if we go over to input, under built-in ports, we can actually select how we're going to run this game. So obviously Rainbow Islands is, say, a joystick game. So I can go to port 2 again, joystick. So before I run Rainbow Islands, I just need to set up a profile. So if I go to tools, options, and I'm going to go to profiles, and just here you're going to find game controller. Now as you can see, it says game controller 6 axis. That's because I've done this before this video. If I double left click on it, and under PC device, we need to make sure that this is selected as the controller that you're using. In my case, my Google Stadia controller. And if I just go to OK, and whilst I'm in options, if I just go over to skin, we can actually change the interface of Amiga Forever. So for example, if I put this to monochrome, and under colors, say light for example, as we can see the preview, it's going to show us what the interface is going to look like. If I go to OK, and as you can see now, the user interface is totally changed. So let's actually boot up Rainbow Islands. So if I double left click on this, so as you might have seen just a minute ago, underneath the window, we've actually got a 9-pin port image just here. If I drop this down, emulated port 2, I need to select this as joystick. And if I go back into the window, now obviously a lot of Amiga games require a mouse to run them. Something like Cannon Fodder, Simon the Sorcerer, Monkey Island. So in order to do this, all we need to do is just drop down and just make sure that emulated ports are set to say mouse for example. And under PC device, just make sure that your controller is actually displayed. Now for this particular game, I'm going to set emulator port 2 to CD32 joypad. And obviously to go into full screen. Now, if I'm playing a game which requires disc 2 to be inserted, as we know Amiga certainly had games where you'd have probably 20 discs in some cases, we can actually go down to the floppy disk drive DF0 icon, and from here we can go to insert, disk image file, and from here we can then choose the next disk. Now, if we go to the demo scene folder, you're going to find lots of demos just here. So the Amiga demo scene, I don't think this is brilliant as the Commodore 64 demo scene, but I might be wrong there. But if you're into demo scene, you've got lots of demos here to watch as well, loads in fact. So let's just open up Ninja for example. So really random stuff, but that's the demo scene for you. And we've also got a gallery folder just here. If we go inside of here, we've got various different images and even some videos of staff from back in the day. And we've even randomly got a 1985 Amiga patent. If I open this up, it's going to bring the original patent of Amiga. So we've got the schematics just here, some description. Very cool stuff if you're interested in that. Now if I jot down playlists, we can actually revisit what we last used in Amiga Forever. So if we go to recently played, you'll notice just here that most of the games or workbenches that I just used are listed here. We also got top plays. And if I go back to games, we can actually change how this looks. If we go to view, mode, columns, here we go. So we can now see our games in columns mode, view, mode, and arcade. And here we go. Now I've got our games in arcade. And whilst I'm here and whilst I see it, if you've not checked out the Rick Dangerous remake, it's totally awesome. You can download that from itch.io, I believe. Really cool stuff. If we press up just here, we can actually then go to the folders, but almost like a front end mode, I suppose. So for example, if I just keep scrolling and go into videos, we then got videos of random bits of history of Amiga or Commodore. But personally, I actually prefer putting this down to tiles. I just think it's a lot easier to look around. And whilst I'm in tile mode, if I go to view and details, I can actually change the size of the icons here or the thumbnails. So for example, if I go to extra large and go to OK, as you can see, they've now enlarged. Whereas if I go back to view and details again, if I put this down to small, there we go. So more games are now on display, but it's a bit draining on the eye. So what I was talking about earlier on, by using Amiga Forever and the files it comes with to use for different multiple platforms, including real Amiga hardware, I'm going to show you how to do this. If we go with the tools and just drop down to ROM toolbox, just here we can actually convert the files within Amiga Forever which actually come with it in order to use them on different platforms. So for example, at the top here, if I go to system, I can choose a system that I want to convert a file for. Let's go for my favourite Amiga model, and probably most people's favourite Amiga model, the Amiga 1200, which costs a small fortune. And under action, I can then select the ROM to file, so I can actually transfer it to a file. Or if I plan to use it to actually burn that file onto, say, an Amiga chip, I can select ROM to chip files. And so you've got many options just here how to convert the files that come with Amiga Forever. Really handy to have. And that's why I say at the start of the video, for even just under €60, it's actually not a bad deal at all. So let's just say I wanted to convert to chip files. I then got ROM 1, and I can then select a different ROM. So let's just say I go for Amiga 3.1. And the revision of this is 40.068. And then all I do next is just simply select an output folder where I want this file to be converted to. So simply select output folder. And then let's just say, for example, I want this outputted onto my desktop. So I select desktop, select folder. And then just here we got the output files. So these are now going to convert into .roms. And they're obviously going to convert into chip files. So if I go to write, 2 files successfully written. If I OK and close, now on my desktop I'll now have 2 files ready to actually burn or flash onto an Amiga chip in order to use in a real Amiga. Another really cool feature I particularly like about Amiga Forever is that we got the ability to pretty much put everything here into a disk image, so an ISO. If I go to tools at the top again and just go down to build image, we can then select everything that we want to copy into a single ISO. So if I just check everything as an example, and again just like transferring files from Amiga Forever to use with, say, real Amiga hardware, we got to give this an output destination. So what I'm going to do is actually make the image, the ISO image, available on my desktop. And as we can see here, file name, it's going to write as Amiga Forever DVD.iso. So if I go to save this, and then I'll just go down to build. So I'm going to start copying the files, and what this is doing is now creating an ISO image. So here we go, the ISO image has been written successfully. So what I'm going to do is OK, close, and if I just minimize Amiga Forever, we'll then find on the desktop the ISO which we've just built. So obviously we can open this up with something like Windows Explorer. If I just mount this, and here we go then. So this is the contents of the ISO, and if I go to auto run, and here we go. So this is an exact replica of how I've set this up in Amiga Forever. Only I can then burn the ISO image onto a physical DVD, and I can put this into another computer and use it from there with the exact same settings and even the same games that I showed just a minute ago. For example, Rainbow Islands just here. And whilst I'm in this image, we can actually go into the Amiga files folder just here. And if we go into shared, if we go to ROM, you can then find all your files just here. So we got Amiga operating system files. And at the top just here, we got ADF folder. And if we go inside the ADF folder, you're going to find workbench ADFs. So like I've been saying, if you fancied using Winuae and you don't have the correct files, the ADF files, to set up something like Workbench, which I've covered over on my channel a couple of times, then you've got all the files in here. So for example, if you want to install Workbench, you would need 5 ADF files, normally Workbench, extras, fonts, install, and local. So all of those files are here. And this is why I keep saying I think Amiga Forever really is an amazing package. Now next up, if we go up to this little options, this little cog here in the top right, from here we can then go over to emulation, and if you fancy some scan lines being added to your games, then we can select scan lines just here. We can actually add interpolation such as bilinear and preferred video mode. So obviously in NTSC regions, games are going to run quicker than they are in my region, which is PAL region. We also got video settings here for pixel aspect ratios such as square and original, and there's various other video settings you can use here. Now let's say for example you're having issues booting up your games, you might get a black screen and things don't look right. It's worth checking under graphics API just here. By default this is running with Direct 3D 11, so if you're getting a black screen then it's always worth checking Direct 3D 9 or GDI, and that goes with audio as well. If you're not getting any audio output, then under Audio API you're going to find different modes just here for sound output. If I go to edit again, and I'll just go down to options, and I select configuration, under here where I was talking earlier on about selecting a different configuration for Amiga games, right at the bottom just here, under display, we've actually got video just here, so we can select NTSC in PAL just here if we want. We can also select the different sizes. So for example, if I go for PAL maximum, and under units, we can actually set this to higher res or super higher res, and also interlace modes as well. And we've also got different options here under devices. So being Soccer Kid, this is actually the configuration settings for one single game, so you can do it per game. Now, if I just go down to video where it says native, I can actually drop this to RTG if I wanted to. And from here, I can also go to audio and select a different style of audio. And if you really want perfection in the way your games look, then you can actually use these slides just here in order to correctly make your Amiga game look the way you want it to. So if I open up Soccer Kids now, And that's about it for Amiga Forever. So hopefully I've convinced many people out there, Amiga fans that is, to actually go and purchase a copy of Amiga Forever. I think to some extent it's very much underestimated to what Amiga Forever can actually do. So hopefully this video has actually showed you exactly what it can do. And it really is a great system. Like I say, yes, 60 euros or just under 60 euros. It's not a big deal. It's a one-time payment and it's going to get you all those files you need. And if you're a big Commodore Amiga fan like myself, 60 euros or just under 60 euros really isn't the end of the world. So anyways, if you're new to Commodore Rediscovered, I'm obviously a new channel and I'm asking for people to subscribe and really support my channel. I'm a big dedicated Commodore fan and I've got plenty more content coming. If you've not checked out my channel trailer yet, do check that one out and that'll pretty much give you a rough idea of where this channel's going. So it's obviously going to be emulation based, such as this video today. So I'm going to be looking at Commodore PET up until the last Commodore Amiga system, which was obviously the CD32 and beyond. I'm also going to be doing game reviews of modern Amiga games, modern C64 games, new +4 games and beyond. So an absolute dedicated channel from a very passionate Commodore fan. So anyways, like and subscribe and I'll be uploading my next Commodore video very soon. So till next time,